I'd like to ask the members of the last round table to join me rapidly here. The theme of the last session for today is financial innovation. We saw the three pillars in housing renovation. We're going to focus on the financing aspect now with four speakers. We have Thien from the Crédit Mutuel. We have, in fact, Jean-Pierre Guérin from Renovation, Hervé de Grève from Vasco, Baptiste Fageau from Senova. And Thien Weissberg from Crédit Mutuel. So what we want to do is to review the innovative solutions for accompanying the energy renovation. Before asking each of you to present your activity, I'd like to ask you the question, which I was asked this morning, is what brought you to this housing renovation activity? Because you all have very diverse backgrounds. Etienne, you've been at the Crédit Mutuel for more than 20 years. Baptiste, you've been working as an AMO. Jean-Pierre, you are in an association called Renovation. It is an association for citizen collective projects. And Hervé comes from the energy sector and from the fuel world before coming to the energy renovation of housing. So very different backgrounds. Could you say in a few words what brought you to this sector, housing renovation? And then each of you will be able to tell me about your activity in this sector. All right. So as far as housing is concerned, I am an architect. My objective is to participate in the transition of buildings. There's a considerable challenge for the coming years to reduce energy consumption. And so there's the idea of eco-design that brought me to this. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for this invitation. What has brought the Crédit Mutuel to intervene in the financing of energy renovation? Because as a bank, our main aim is to finance the economy, and energy renovation has become a major challenge, and so my company could not position itself otherwise than to finance energy renovation, whether it be for private individuals or for major landlords, social landlords and others. I'm interested in energy renovation for some 10 years now. At the time, I was at Airbus, and a few years ago, I decided to leave Airbus to dedicate myself to this cause, which is very dear to my heart, and for which I had some ideas, some rather innovative ideas. And so for 2 years, since I created the association, I have tried to act in that direction, to try to have local projects emerge in territories which are based on a citizen group. So there's a real social ambition here and a collective ambition as well. As far as I'm concerned, as Philippe said, I come from the domestic fuel sector. We had some 200,000 people and those who in precarious situations because their heaters were not well insulated, etc. And so discovered this world from the interior. And last year, I worked to really focus on global renovation. And so I think that what's innovative, there's very little innovation as far as financing is concerned. And so I turned towards the idea of financing global renovation. On this round table, you have people who potentially answer two aspects in the renovation project. On the one hand, financing, and on the other hand, operators, contractor operators. And so here, we want to talk first of the financing aspect, and secondly, we can talk about the renovation as such. That is to say, more from the technical point of view. So let's start with Thien. Thien, can you tell us the actions of the Crédit Mutuel, which has joined us in Reno? Can you tell us how you are involved? At the level of the financing of energy renovation, we are here to finance those households which are solvent. That is to say, through the Eco PTZ, also for loans which are, and this is for work which can be rather high. Where we were challenged here was in the financing of the households that are not solvent because they find themselves in difficult financial situations or they're too old to be able to obtain the classic loans. So for us, this has been a real challenge for the renovation loan. You know, as Jonathan said very rapidly here, the renovation PTZ is an infine loan. In fact, the reimbursement of the capital only takes place at the time of the selling of the property or the inheritance of the property. So here for the bank, it means you are implementing a loan with no defined expert maturity date, if you like. For banks, it was something very new, very problematic. So we tried to find a solution. We succeeded by having a lot of exchanges with the DHAP, and other government entities to implement this mechanism. And after a month and a half, we tested the product in March 2022, knowing that we, in fact, are the only a network to distribute this type of loan, the Crédit Mutuel on the one hand and the Postal Bank on the other hand. So this loan is addressing a public which no longer has access to bank loans. So what we see is that once we've implemented the loan, in fact, I'll be quite honest with you, I must say it is a very discreet recourse to these loans. We can talk to customers who come to see us for these energy renovation projects. The people who come into the framework of these type of loan for households that are more solvent, when we explain the characteristics of the loan, well, they were frightened by the idea of a loan that does not have a maturity date. And they wondered whether or not they could perhaps take out a mortgage, for example. And, you know, this credit in fine, right to the end, you know, well, you don't, you know, they get the impression that the end of at the end, this is going to increase the amount of capital that you were loaned. So people are very frightened to transmit a property which is devalued or does not have the value if they had had a possibility of having recourse to a conventional type of loan. So, in the end, the postal bank and ourselves, after about 20 months that we have offered the loan, we haven't made more than 100 or so such loans. Yet remember, there are more than 3 million housing units that are not sanitary, that need to be renovated, with most of them with very modest or very low income families, but they have not had recourse to this type of loan. We see that despite the fact that we recontacted people, households who were afraid of the costs, etc., when we contacted them and told them, well, we can try to, give concrete form to the project because now we have the means of doing this. It has not encouraged the households to put into place this kind of renovation loan. So it would appear that there are other obstacles to this, obstacles that our customers don't want to share with us, don't want to talk about with us. And we try to call them, try to motivate them, tell them we can try to fix things. And in the end, it's not that, it's the household which refuses. What about the zero interest rate PAR loan? Do you think it will change things? Honestly, I don't have an answer to that question because the renovation loan that we distribute has a low interest rate as compared to normal loans for renovation work. The breaks on this that we have been told from the field, it's not the interest rate which was mentioned, leading the households to not take advantage of the loan. But I hope that the zero interest rate loan will be able to attract other people, other households, so that they will carry out their projects. Now, this is a system which is done in conjunction with various government entities. It is to be distributed on the 1st of September 2024. Now, we're working with, the the public as well. This is a 0% interest rate loan, the par zero. We hope it's going to interest more households and that it will get a foothold in the uh, financing. So we see that the loan in fine is not a solution. Hervé, so do you propose something else? Yes, what we do is work with the households where the work has already been started. But very often, the major work is not going to take place because they're going to say they're lacking labor, etc., but they're especially lacking money. So for the renovation loan is for the moment a failure. We're not a bank, and so we're launching a new financing approach, which consists in paying the total worksite cost. And this, in exchange for the loan, we receive a part of the house, a part of the property. We were told this would not work in France, but in fact, it's beginning to work. We've had some 200 customers who have contacted us for this. So it's slow, obviously, to get the work done, etc. We're going to have some 20 starting next week. Let me explain how this works because this is something new. No one has ever done that before. So, the starting point, this is not a loan. There are many criteria which have nothing to do with this. You know, we are, in fact, we don't ask about the age, health, or anything. We are interested in the house, the housing project, and the household, you know, and to see how this works for us and the investors. We're very different because there is no interest here. So it's 100% in fine. There is zero money to pay out before or after the work. It's neutral from the cash point of view for the household. Everything is pushed back to a later day when the customer sells the property. We do not sell his property. We pay for the work, and he will reimburse us the day he sells the house. Let's take an example of 30,000 euros financing for a house that is worth 300,000 euros. We finance the work, and we in fact will propose to the owner that we take a 13% stake in the house. So we will pay 30%, the 30,000 euros, and we take a 13% stake. So in fact, this is how it works. So we have a 30% more than we invest. And as far as the houses are concerned, you know that this type of mechanism works, already exists, not for renovation, but in fact here you can have a 10-year duration, which in fact enables us to be a co-owner, but the customer keeps full usage of his property. He can do as he wishes with the house, and we put the money in an escrow account dedicated to the renovation work. And then he can invest them for the work. We look with the customer to determine the work that's going to be done, because given that we're financing the work, you know, it's obvious that we want to ensure that it is okay from the renovation point of view. Now, as far as the in division is concerned here, you know, we're involved for 10 years. And so you know that, you know, generally the owner remains owner for maybe 8 years. You know that we have customer residence, and you know that most of the people then sell the property, and they will receive 87% of the sale, and we get 13%. Otherwise, furthermore, the owner can, after a couple of years, if he has the money, buy back the share we have in his house. And so, you know, you know that the customer will rarely reimburse this. You know that in 10 years' time, when the owner is convinced of buying back our shares, you know that here we're not a bank, but we work, in fact, uh, always adding our 30% ratio. So, you know, 13 or 16.9%, we can increase our capital in the customer's home if it's necessary. And so customers who project themselves, you know, in a bank or not. I don't know exactly how much time I have left or how much I can say about our customers, but today we have a lot of experience with 200 customers or more. What's interesting for us is to see what their motivation is for the work. If you're not motivated, there's no point in doing this. You know that this is not a universal solution. If the customer can pay cash for his work, or get a 0% loan, then we encourage him to do this. Very often, the problem is that the customer is over indebted or does not have the cash. Today, we're financing people who are 30 years old, some are 80 years old. They have very different renovation objectives. Their income level is very different as well. You have people who have income, but who have a problem in terms of the level of debt, and they don't want to eat away at at their their at their property, their goods. They don't want to diminish their property, so things can be very difficult. With the SCI, it's we work with them as well because we don't finance the customer. In fact, we're financing his property. And if you're interested, do contact us because we don't go looking for the customers. We we work mostly with AMAs, people working in renovation, people, in fact, who are looking for the financing. And so this enables us, in fact, to, depending on the situation, we can maybe help out. Don't hesitate to contact us.
We have a foncier company, real estate company, and one is called ESUS, where there's a lot of tax interest for the investors. So that's so we have $1.5 million investment. We obviously discuss that with institutionals and with the government to finance the 200,000 or 300,000 for the first house. And then we're going to be sending someone to accompany them to the notaries. So there are two ways that it can be handled. Either the customer is invoiced the frais de dossier, the cost of the actual act, and you have the investment, the banking expenses and management expenses. We have a return on investment, but over a very long haul. We can't hear the question. No, the charges are not our concern. We want this to create value in the housing unit. We're not balancing a sort of a monthly rent or something. The energy economy is the savings in energy is only the benefit is only to the customer. Thank you. Let's move on to the next aspect, is accompaniment of the client on the technical side. And we're going to start with Baptiste, who's going to present his activity at Senova. Senova, the mission at Senova is to contribute actively and enthusiastically to the energy transition of buildings. We accompany the customer, specifically with co-owned buildings of more than 15 years old. So we have built an expertise on the obstacles that the type of customer has this, whether it be in the decision-making process and the accompaniment of said customers, because some co-owners decide to commit to a renovation project. Now, with respect to that, one of the biggest obstacles that we've encountered, which is not easy, and is to have access to several contacts. We've made the first step to integrate everything in our structure, whether it be AMO or architecture. As we indicated, for a project to be enthusiastic, it's not just energy that's involved, it's also improving the lifestyle and responding to customers' needs over the next 30 years. We're not doing a renovation project which is only on energy. It's a global and highly performing co-owned property. And obviously all of the skills you need that, the design, engineering, architecture, and so forth, and building. So there's a call for projects that was launched, and we responded to that, a consortium with the Energy Transition Bank. This is a subsidiary of the BPOA Bank. The idea was to push it one step further, the simple, unique service, one step further, using a unique contract, which is going to involve engineering, working operations, financing, and also provide an energy performance contract along with it to guarantee the results to the customer about the energy consumption they can expect. The idea is not to in a disproportionate value between evaluating the guarantee and the actual savings that can be realized. The idea is to find the appropriate balance, and that's what's at stake in this project. And the call for project is to solve that particular equation. And the other element is this is a very long-term project. This decision in General Assembly from to the next, between the emergence of a need and the actual performance of the work, it can take 5 or 6 years. There can be slippage, and some people can't wait for the project to be finished to sell their apartment, which makes things more complex. So the idea is to reduce all of these deadlines by providing an offer as a general contractor, so that you don't need 2 general assemblies to 1. So 18 months would be gained in that renovation project, and above all, to integrate to a maximum extent what we call the BIM processes. So how the cost of engineering is a significant cost, but that has to be reduced as much as possible without impacting the quality. So this speeds up deadlines, and financing of engineering reduces that. You're better off financing €1 than 2. So everything that can be digitized and improved, and the way it's financed, which is innovative, I think we can call it that way, is to explore, to transpose what exists already in funding photovoltaic panel cells, the SPVs. So you start an SPV, which is going to be handling the contracts and the financing of the project, and that's not every that borrows something. They're just going to have to be reimbursing charges by the co-owned building. That's easier to organize than having everybody borrowing money individually. So the idea is to create an SPV, a special purpose vehicle. It's a new type of financing. So you finance the project itself by increasing the charges over 15 years, and this is going to be offset by savings in energy thanks to the project over that same duration. So we were saying earlier that the syndic is not usually playing the role of a financier, because they're going to be collecting the charges for you. So what do you think about that? And perhaps as well, what about the performers? Is that guaranteed over the long haul? The savings of energy, I mean. Well, there are 2 things at stake. First of all, the syndic, you have to be aware of who they don't like to. The simple solution is do an ordinary management, which they're used to doing, and you handle it just as an expense of the co-owned building. So everybody participates in the same loan, which is granted to the special purpose vehicle. So it simplifies the intervention of the syndic. So they don't mind collecting regular sums on because they're used to doing that. So there isn't an obstacle on that for the moment. However, insofar as guarantees are concerned, well, that's a big issue. We can do calculations to try and figure out what the actual savings will be. The idea is to do something that's very simple. The way you do that, there are a lot of studies that are done to try to calculate this kind of energy savings. The idea is to keep it simple and to guarantee that by the operator, who's the one that's guaranteeing based on the work and the engineering, and they're the ones that are going to be guaranteeing the results. Thank you. I think we'll have some time for questions at the end. I'm going to hand over to Jean-Pierre, who's going to be talking to us about Renovaction. I talked about Renovaction, which is the company that I created, and I participate in the call for project for l'ADEME at Renault. And in this framework, we put together a consortium, and I represent today them. And this comprised the cooperative society called Renocoop, which is going to be created if the Laureat project, a call for a project from the ADEME, of a consortium where we have Enercop, which is a regional cooperatives for renewable energy, which some of you know. It's a network of owns 11 regional cooperatives who buy energy and electricity from producers in paying a reasonable price, and cooperatives where we share those values with them. In the consortium, we also have an engineering company. We're in Toulouse, okay? And the demo project we're going to be doing is a response to the call for a project which will be performed in Toulouse. And we have a partner in the consortium, the Caisse d'Épargne from the Midi-Pyrénées region, which is offered to support us for the loans, which I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute. So what's the objective for the SIC, the Renocoop SIC? The idea is to group together local participants and players around a project for energy renovation based on 3 pillars. Sobriety, so we're going to be responding to the idea of sobriety by doing the energy renovation. Efficacy, energy efficiency, there's one area that's very important, is to helping usage. We're going to be accompanying the insulation in making the house heat safe so that their use is adapted to what they want to do with it and with the objectives of energy consumption that we're going to be setting together. And also the third area is producing renewable energy, because we're going to be installing photovoltaic panels on the roof. So the offer is brought forward by Renocoop and the partners. The idea is to do the diagnosis of roughly 50 housing units. The first project, the administrator of the project theoretically will be renovating 50 individual homes. And so we're going to be guaranteeing the consumption of energy after the works, which is absolutely essential for the offer and for the families, because as we said many times here since this morning, trust is one of the major obstacles which stops most of us from moving on. The idea of renovating our home, especially when it's a question of renovating energy performance, which for these individuals is going to cost 60, 70, maybe 100,000 euros. It's a huge amount of money. And so trust is one of the big obstacles that stop a lot of people from doing it. There are other obstacles, but this is a big one. So the fact of guaranteeing the performance right from the beginning, we have a solution to that. It's a key factor to develop trust. And so concretely speaking, Renocoop is going to, in conjunction with the local territory, because it's a very local action, whether it be for players such as PCIB or professionals and artisans. The idea is working in these territories with local communities to help emerge projects, collective projects for a neighborhood or a village. The demonstrator project that I'm talking about will be in a close urban area of Toulouse, and it is based on a lot of buildings from the 80s, which are homes that we're going to be targeting on a priority basis because the energy expenditures are quite high. So for each new project that's going to be emerging, we're going to be creating a community of and energy sharing. We use renovation, obviously, and we do savings on that, and we share the energy as well, because the idea is to produce energy, as I said earlier. So this community will be comprised of households, the 50 homes, basically, and local players who are interested in the project. It could be a community, it could be quite a few structures or people, since the energy community could have a status of a cooperative in the public interest, which could be quite well adapted to this type of project. Renocop, once the project exists, it's emerged. Once the fund is put together, Renocop will be in charge of performing the studies and the work. I'm repeating what I said earlier, i.e. the local players and the local artisans, but the design people and the architects in cooperation with the households. Once the energy community is formed, the families will be involved. We will not have a design company that's just going to design a solution on their own. The families will be involved, and even the collective group of households. So we're counting a lot on that movement, in fact, around the project. We won't forget either, one of the missions of Renocop will be to accompany people over the long haul. Renocop will be in charge once the work is done and providing a regular follow-up of the installation. If energy consumption becomes abnormal, that can happen after the end of the work maybe, but Renocop will provide a response that will be proportionate. There can be different solutions, but the easiest would be to train or add to the training of the actual usage of each family that they make of that installation. And it could you might have to redo some work if the non-quality has its origin linked to the work performed. I don't know if Sébastien is talking about, no, the slides. There is a slide on the economic model. We have designed an economic model to respond to this offer, to accompany this offer that I just described, with the very strong intention to group together risk, to concentrate risk. In this design, there are three players, or four main players: the operator, the energy community, and the households, and the banks. So the idea is that the risk in this model should be shared amongst all of the players. So just to give you an order of magnitude, the studies, or the panel of the households, which would be around 50 households, this represents some 60% of the amount of the work. And so the stuff that remains to pay is 40% to be funded. So this amount would be funded by the bank to the energy community, which would be contracting the loan from the bank, that remaining amount to be paid of 40,000. And our partner in the Caisse d'Épargne in the Midi-Pyrénées region has solutions for that in order to accept this type of loan. Another very important factor is not only the solution, the loan provided, and there's also the guarantee within that loan, because they are guaranteeing on the risk of if the people aren't actually paying off the amounts due. So this principle of funding, collective funding, makes it possible to involve households that would not have access to a loan if they're too old or too poor or whatever. So this is another part of that possibility. Once the work has been done, 1 minute. So the principle is that the households, once the work is done, they're getting a discount of 75% off the energy, which will enable them, the community, to reimburse the loan to the bank. That's the principle of this economic model. And this approach, this fixed monthly amount, can be guaranteed because there's energy production from the photocells, so that you can control the cost over the long haul of the energy provided. And I'll stop there.
Perhaps, do we have time for a couple of questions, perhaps? We'll take a couple of questions. but as we insist on closing at 6, we are keen to manage time strictly, more or less. Any questions? Jean-François Lachon, in Belgium. We did some work on this model of the in fine loan, and I heard the person from the Société Générale saying that it was not the most favoured solution. So is would this advance loan be given away? Well, we wish it to endure because we've mobilised resources, IT, human resources to set up the system. So I cannot hide that all this has a cost. Therefore, of course, we would be inclined to maintain this loan for all the non-solvent, insolvent loanees. So why did this system not succeed? I'm not certain. I don't know, but I hope it's not a stillborn project. I do hope so. By the way, there are 2 Europes. There's one Europe which is funding people and another Europe that funds assets. And clearly the French culture is to finance people, not assets. So there are some very age-old mind patterns in this. It's not about the banks only, it's also the people. The other points we noted is that that the only assets that these people give out to their kins is the house. So anything that would jeopardize the house is something they are quite afraid of. So we are now being joined by English-speaking France, and hopefully so, because my microphone is soon going to run out of battery. Elisabeth Blanche, I'm a consultant for co-ownerships, and I train owners about energy renovation projects, and the questions about financing is the first question they ask even before saying hello. So I'm very interested in this. So about the Senova proposal to come up with a loan that would be taken by all the co-owners, it could be a solution, but it does not seem to be easy to get a majority of votes for this. So in the case of default in reimbursement, what is the system in terms of solidarity? We're still in an exploration phase, so we're looking perhaps for a new form of funding, and where everybody would be acting in solidarity. If one co-owner doesn't pay their heating bill, there will be a deficit on the account, and there will be a recovery procedure launched. And even if it's not pleasant, these procedures are not unusual, so it would not be a problem for them. But the advantage for several owners is that there's no resource or age conditions, so the largest number can get access to the loan. And the other benefit is that it does not involve the debt capacity of a given owner. Someone who might be landowner could need to invest in other real estate assets, which generate some solvency for the co-owners in a way. The comment cannot be heard because there is no mic. Yeah, there are risks, and we need to see the pros and cons. Can this be offered to all co-ownerships, or only those healthier condominiums be eligible for this type of funding. The main idea is to say that it's one entry point for the co-ownership, which is simpler for setting up loans, because it's quite complicated if you have to deal with every separate co-owner, because it's a lengthy process for finances, because if a contractor hands out a quote, we ask them to commit to the quote amount for over 300 days, which is tough. Thank you. So finance is tricky, but it can be quite joyful the way you talk about it. Thank you.